Okay. Hi, I'm Michael Kennedy in downtown Toronto on Katie Chats.
Reporting for Katie Chats in downtown Toronto with the Executive Vice President of Filmed Entertainment at Cineplex, Michael Kennedy. Were there any experiences from your childhood that influenced your passion for film?
Yes, actually, my dad was involved in building a theater in Hamilton when I was young. And he brought me down one day, kind of babysitting, and they building this giant 750-seat auditorium that had the state-of-the-art sound at the time. And the movie that was opening was 2001: A Space Odyssey. And that day they were putting the speakers in and testing the sound. And I remember I was probably 7 or 8 years old, and I was standing in the middle of this giant room. The seats weren't in yet, so it was just this giant room with all these speakers. And they were cranking it up as loud as they could go to make sure that the structure would hold and the speakers would hold and that it would sound great. And it was that opening moment of Space Odyssey, that great piece of music, like bum, 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 bum. And I remember standing there going, this is the greatest thing I've ever heard in my life. And then I saw the movie 2001: Space Odyssey later when it opened. I think I was 8. I didn't understand anything about it, but it was visually and the sound was so spectacular that I fell in love with the whole idea of movies. And I've seen that movie 15 or 20 times since, and I still think it's spectacular. Still don't know what it's about, but I still think it's spectacular.
Has that movie influenced what you've been programming at Cineplex?
No, not at all. No, the way we program, obviously at Cineplex, as we're a commercial entity, we program movies that people want to see. So if people wanted to see 2001: A Space Odyssey next week and we could find a marketing budget to support it, we would certainly show it. But no, we definitely program the movies for what people, I call it the most democratic business in the world, because literally people vote by buying tickets, so whatever movies people want to see, that's what we put up.
What advice would you give to a filmmaker in terms of making a programmable film?
Well, it's really simple and really hard. It's simple in that you have to have really engaging characters that people relate to, and you have to have a story that people are compelled to listen to and watch. And that sounds really easy, but it's actually quite hard. And the most important thing, I think, really from a point of view of a filmmaker, is you have to know who you're making the movie for. You have to have your audience in mind before the first frame of film ever plays, because certainly for the theatrical, the movie-going experience, because there has to be a reason for a person to leave their house, shell over $10 or $12, put aside 3 hours of their life for whatever movie is going to be presented to them. So, you better deliver to them what they expect you to deliver them. If it's a comedy, it better be funny. If it's a scary movie, it better be scary. Mm-hmm. And, like that. And I think oftentimes what happens is people make their dream movie, but they forget that somebody has to pay money to go and watch it at the end of the day. So that's always the advice I give filmmakers.
Is there a film in particular that you're especially proud of programming?
There's one that I remember, and it's at the time and in the whole frame of things quite insignificant, but it was this wonderful little Canadian movie called Perfectly Normal. And I remember seeing it and loving it, and it was funny and it was charming, but I knew it was going to be really hard to market and get out to the public. And at the time I was the art and independent booker for the Carleton Theatre, where all the art movies used to play back then. And I wanted them to put it in there and play it as an art movie, but they wanted it to be commercial, so they opened it on a commercial basis, and it didn't do any business. So I begged them to give me a print just to put into the Carleton after it had played everywhere else. And we put it in there, and it did okay, it didn't do great. And then Pauline Kael, who was the film critic, I think from the New York Times, happened to be in Toronto, had heard about the Carleton and the great programming, and went there and ended up just going to see Perfectly Normal. She went back to New York and wrote this wonderful review of the movie. And the next weekend, it was sort of like people went, wow, Pauline Kael said it's okay to see a Canadian movie. The box office doubled. The following weekend, it doubled again. And then we ended up playing it for something like 4 or 5 months, which I thought was, in one way, really cool, that I could have a small impact on that. And then the other way, like, why does Pauline Kael have to say it's okay? Why didn't they come in the first place? But so I always remember that one as being a neat little story.
And along those same lines, what's the importance of programming Canadian film in terms of influencing Canadian identity?
Well, I always struggle with the word Canadian identity because I don't really know what it is, to be frank with you. We live in a big country. The difference between Quebec and Ontario and the Maritimes and Alberta and the West Coast, there's Northern Ontario for that matter, all very different. So you kind of look at it from the point of view as, well, who are we and what are we? And how does film have anything to do with that? But I guess, storytelling has always been the way that people find out who they are, and you pass down, generation to generation, pass down stories so that people can identify who they are. And I think that film can do that. I don't know if we do, but I think that film can do that as opposed to just being, 2 hours of entertainment. And when something is done really, really well, I think like Paul Gross's movie Passchendaele is a great example. I think probably a lot of people saw that movie, had no idea that Canadians were that involved in the war in Europe, and I believe that we have the ability to tell those stories. I don't know if we're doing it right now particularly well, and I know it's difficult, but I hope we do find our identity, we Canadians.
What is the importance of film festivals in the programming process?
Film festivals are more of a film distribution thing than our thing. Where there's three kind of components of the film industry. There's the producers who make the movies, the distributors who buy the rights to bring the movie to market, and then us. So we're kind of what they call us theatrical exhibitors. We kind of get the finished product, whereas distributors, they pick up the rights to movies. So for them, it's great to go to these film festivals to find movies to bring to the public eventually. For the public who goes to the film festival, it's a great opportunity to see movies that might not play in a commercial theater. And then, certainly in Toronto for big studios and when there's big movies, it's a great way to launch a movie. So, you look at last year in Toronto, Argo and Silver Linings Playbook, they were both launched in the Toronto Film Festival, and there's been lots of examples of that over the years. Slumdog Millionaire was a great one, and so for us, it's we get the finished product anyway. Film festivals is a way for us to maybe find that one little bright light that we didn't know was out there, but more it's a way for distributors to buy movies to then deliver to us at the end of the food chain.
Have you been a big moviegoer at TIFF, for example, for years and years?
TIFF is one of those places where I get ripped apart into 20 different directions because, there's so much going on, and there's so many people in town that want to meet, and it's genuinely a lot of fun. I do remember when I was in my 20s and working as a film distributor, and had the program in my back pocket and was running from theater to theater to watch this movie and that movie and loving the whole thing. Couldn't get invited to a party if my life depended on it. Now, of course, I get invited to every party that's out there, and I don't have time to go to any of them.
That's tough.
But it's, as a film goer, it's great to when you see one of those movies, when you see a Slumdog Millionaire and you go, holy moly, that's a great movie, So it's great for that.
What is the land speed of an African swallow, and how has that influenced your career?
An swallow bats its wings at 43 wing bats per second now. It's obviously from the Monty Python movie. I was talking to somebody the other day, and they said they were talking about some big life momenty thing, and I said, it's just like in Life of Brian when the guy was going, Lupin's for an ex-leper, Lupin's for an ex-leper. And he says, what do you mean ex-leper? Well, I was a leper, and then Jesus came along and cured me. Now I don't have a business anymore. It's kind of like, that's just like life. It makes no sense at all, does it, that answer? Okay. To answer that question.
And where do you see film in Canada going in the next 10, 15 years?
Wow. Film?
Yeah. And what we're seeing in Cineplex theaters more specifically.
Yeah. It's actually, we're in a transformative stage right now as our circuit has just spent the last 2 years pulling all the old 35 millimeter equipment out and replacing them with digital projectors. And digital brings with it a whole bunch of advantages that we didn't have when it was 80 pounds of film that had to be, bussed from theater to theater. With digital, it can be, it's a hard drive that can be sent FedEx or delivered by a satellite. And so it gives us the ability to really change the programming in a robust way. And we're doing a lot of it with we call it our alternate programming department. department, where we're going back and the studios are remastering a lot of the old movies. So we have our classic film series and our digital film festival and Most Wanted Mondays. And so from, we're fine on Friday and Saturday nights and half price Tuesdays. We have lots of people in our theaters. Monday nights, not so much. But when you can find the kind of programming that a specific genre of filmgoer loves, and we can start doing that now with digital. So we've been having a lot of success with it, and I think that you're going to see a lot more of that. It's going to become much more dynamic. The programming at theaters is going to become much more dynamic over the next little while.
How did you get involved with Cinecoo?
Well, interesting. Somebody at a film festival, Toronto Film Festival, a couple of years ago said, "There's somebody you need to meet. He's got this great idea," and it was Jay Jolie. So we went and had breakfast together, and he told me about this idea that he had of driving awareness of a film through social media, and that the social media would actually decide which movie got made, and then the audience is engaged all the way along, and then as the movie's being made, they would follow along to the point where it's ready to go into theaters, and what do you think? And I said, it's like the most brilliant idea I've ever heard. Like absolutely, let's do it. And then never, of course, figuring he would ever do it. And he went out and put this whole thing together, and I think there were 90 projects submitted to Cinecoo this year, and whittled it down to the top 5. And so we went out to the Banff Film Festival, and these 5 groups of a producer, a writer, and a director pitched their idea, and I was absolutely blown away by the quality and the presentation that they gave, and they showed the clip that they put together. And we could only pick one, sadly, but I know that Jay had optioned 9 other projects from the top 10, obviously, and we're still working at trying to get those produced as well. So one group got $1 million to go off and make Wolf Cop, coming to Cineplex theaters next February. So that one will go off and get made, and Cinecoo will follow its progress as they go along, and hopefully what we can do at the end of it is you can actually look at the diagnostics from who's gone onto the site, where they live, and what their interest has been. So you can kind of look at it and go, wow, people in Kelowna are really interested in this. Maybe we should play it in Kelowna, whilst people in Winnipeg don't seem to give a damn. So let's not play it there. So it gives you the opportunity to actually see where the interest is. And I remember the movie Paranormal Activity used kind of a similar thing with the Demand It website, where they, Paramount Pictures does not want you to see this movie, so go to Demand It and demand you bring it to your town. And through the Demand It thing, they went, oh, there's 700,000 people in Cincinnati want to see this movie, so boom, Cincinnati's in, and we did the same thing across Canada. So the power of this thing called the internet, I don't know if you've heard of it, it's quite powerful. It's very good in terms of, we'll actually be able to see if there is interest in Wolf Cop when it comes time to bring it to market or not. Maybe we'll open it in, 1 theater, or maybe we'll open it in 50 theaters, but we'll have something to base that on, whether people want to see it or not.
Do you think you'll be using that model in terms of supply and demand more and more as time goes on and technology advances?
Well, I certainly think it's a model. I don't know if it's the model, but I think after a while, if that was the only way you were making movies, it starts to get a little bit cluttered in that space. The old tried and true tested way of spending a lot of money seems to be the way to bring movies to the market right now. But for smaller movies, I think using the social network, as it's called, is a great way to bring it to market. Yeah.
Is there going to be another Cinecoo competition?
Yes, I believe Jay is going to be launching another program next year. I don't know what the exact date is, but I think if you're a budding filmmaker, you can go to Cineplex.com. Go to Cineplex.com anyway. But you can go to Cinecoo.com, and I believe that after Wolf Cop's been made, they will launch the next program, and the hope is that there'll be lots more filmmakers getting involved. It's a great way to get your project seen, if nothing else. And just to go back to the last one, Robert Lantos, who's a prolific Canadian filmmaker, producer, he was on the jury, and he was actually blown away by the quality of the projects as well. And I think one of the projects that didn't make it, I believe he was looking at optioning it and perhaps making it into a movie. So, you know, you don't have to just be the guy that wins the whole thing, or the group that wins the whole thing. You know, you've done this work and put this package together. There's opportunities. I know that Brad Pellman at Cineplex was in Cannes, whatever it's called. Sorry, everybody in France. But was pitching the top 10 projects, you know, for video on demand and EST and all that kind of stuff, you know. And as the world of content expands, as a content producer, there's lots of opportunity out there. And I think, you know, anybody gets involved in Cineplex would be very good for them as a filmmaker.
Well, thank you so much. Congratulations on years and years in the film business, and best of luck in the years to come.
Thank you, Katie. That was wonderful.
Thank you. I'm Katie Ullman reporting for Katie Chats in downtown Toronto.
Okay, tell me, are you a budding filmmaker yourself?
I have produced 4 short films.
Wow.
Yeah, they're all online now.
And I can get them or find them where?
They are on YouTube under the name of the production company is Real Professional.
Wow, I look forward to seeing them. So what's next for you?
Right now I am in the midst of producing a short film about 2 women having tea, and it turns into a physical comedy.
Nice. So if there was, you know, a role in there for a fairly handsome older gentleman, well, I'm just saying.
You might be able to play the butler.
The butler? Jeeves. I always wanted to be Jeeves.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I look forward to seeing that. When can I expect to see that one?
Hopefully within the next 6 months.
Well, get to work.
Okay, I will.
Damn it. This is Michael Kennedy reporting live from Katie Chats.
Yeah.
Katie Chats. Katie Chats?
Yeah.
Oh, it's right there.
Sometimes.
Katie Chats.
Sometimes people think it's Katie Talks.
Yeah.
But that was good.